Hey guys, today we'll be making some beef brisket bacon. That's right, bacon made out of brisket. Why brisket? Well, for starters, brisket is easier to find than pork belly in some areas, and it's sometimes cheaper than pork belly when it goes on sale, and the most important reason is that it's delicious. But you could probably already tell that from the glistening goodness that's on your screen right now. Stay tuned and I'll show you how to make this. So to start, you'll need 5 pounds of grade A5 Wagyu brisket. Only the finest will do for this recipe, so you'll want to go ahead and get a second mortgage on your house before heading down to the butcher. Obviously, I'm kidding, guys. I'm starting off with 5 pounds of Kroger $1.89 special brisket. This is the flat off a whole pack of brisket that I've trimmed the fat cap down to about 1/8 of an inch on top. We're not really trying to render the fat on top like a traditional smoked brisket, so you could trim this down even further if you prefer a leaner cut of bacon. Once you've got the brisket trimmed up to your liking, the next step is to make the cure blend. So the cure blend is going to help determine what your bacon tastes like. You can stick to the simple salt, sugar, and curing salt mixture if you prefer a traditional route. Or if you're a little adventurous, you can start mixing in additional spices. The recipe I'm going to give you gives my brisket bacon a taste that's sort of like pastrami. At least I think so. You can tweak this as you like depending on your preference, but this is the mix I really like, and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite recipes. As I mentioned, the 3 main ingredients are the salt, sugar, and curing salt, also known as sodium nitrite. I know some folks choose to omit the sodium nitrite, but we are smoking this on lower temps for a while, so I always opt to add it as a safety measure, but it's up to you. I will say that without it, your bacon will not have that traditional pink hue and distinctive flavor profile associated with traditional bacon, but it will probably still taste good. At least I think it will. So for 5 pounds of beef, we're going to need 100 grams of brown sugar. Light, dark, mahogany, whatever you prefer. Then on top of that, 60 grams of either kosher salt or a regular non-iodized salt. Now we're going to deal with the spice blend. This is going to include 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of dried thyme, German thyme if you want to be specific, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of pepper powder if you make your own, that would be great, or cayenne if you have it. And the next few ingredients are where things get a little bit weird, but trust me, they work. So we have 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground allspice, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and of course, 1 teaspoon of sodium nitrite if you so please. One note is that if you are planning to use the sodium nitrite, is to make sure that you add the correct ratio based on the number of pounds of meat. So please follow any directions given by your specific manufacturer. Okay, so next step is to add the ingredients together and then mix this all up so they get nice and blended. So you could use a spoon, kind of like what I'm trying to do here. Or you can take the easier route and just try to put a cap on the top of this and shake the bejesus out of it. Much easier. There you go. We're all done now. Okay, so now that we have our spice blend all made, all we're going to have to do is add that to our brisket. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and put the flat into this 2.5 gallon Ziploc bag. These things are really handy. So all I'm going to do is just pretty much add the spice blend on top of the brisket, kind of massage it in, and then what we're going to do after that is put it in the fridge for 7 days. So it's a pretty good idea if you're going to make this on like a Friday night or a Saturday, and then the next weekend you can kind of smoke it afterwards. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and add this spice blend, and you don't have to be too careful about it. All you need to do is massage this in afterwards. So I'm just going to dump in the whole thing. You know, you can be a little bit more meticulous if you want. I'm going to close this up. And as you see, kind of shake it all around, pretending someone you don't like you're wringing their neck. Okay, actually don't do that. But anyway, so, you know, once you get this all mixed up, go ahead and put this in the fridge. And I would recommend, even though these Ziploc bags very rarely leak, to put this in another container or in another bag actually. So what you're going to want to do there is put it in the fridge, probably in the colder part of your fridge, not obviously in the freezer, and just flip it every day. So, you know, just make sure that you're going to start seeing a lot of liquid coming out of this meat, and what's going to happen is it's going to start permeating the meat, curing it, and getting all that delicious bacony flavor in there, for lack of better words. So again, go ahead and put this in your fridge for 7 days, flip it every day, and then we'll see you when we're starting to smoke it. So it's been about 7 days since we went ahead and put the brisket bacon into the fridge. As you can see, there's a lot of liquid in the bag, and all of this came from the brisket itself. This is all the effects of the sugar and the salt. You know, it's kind of leaching out the beef juices out of the piece of meat and replacing that with bacony goodness. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and wash off, take this out of the bag, and then wash off all these extra little seasoning bits because we don't want those burning on the smoker. And we're going to go ahead and put it in the fridge after that. So let me go ahead and clean this up and show you what we're going to do next. Alright guys, as you can see, I've washed off the salt and sugar mixture off the brisket, and what we're going to do next is go ahead and smoke it. But the first thing you want to do is give it some time to rest in the fridge so it forms a little pellicle layer, and that pellicle layer is just, it creates kind of a sticky surface layer on the meat itself so the smoke can adhere better. You don't necessarily need to do that, but I do find it gives the meat a better smoke flavor when you do that. So if you can throw it in the fridge for about an hour, overnight would be preferable, that'd be great. To do this, I put it on a little cooling rack here and just pop it in the fridge for a few hours. So as you can see, it's mostly clean. Like some of these little seasonings won't pull off easily, but hopefully they don't burn in the smoker. So we'll go ahead, and while this is resting in the fridge, we'll go ahead and set up the smoker, and I'll show you how I do that next. Today guys, we're going to use a Weber kettle grill to smoke the bacon, just to show you that you don't need a fancy smoker to make this. I'm setting up the charcoal using the snake method that uses a stacked line of charcoal which slowly burns throughout the cook. I'm just using 3 briquettes in each row this time, along with some wood chips to keep the temp in the lower 200-degree range. Hopefully you can get the gist of how I set this up, but YouTube has tons of videos on this topic if you need more details. This time I'm using hickory, since it's the baconiest wood out there, while trying to get this brisket up to an internal temperature of about 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. But you can use whatever wood is your favorite. You want to keep this nice and low and slow, since you're not looking for tenderness, you're just looking to add some smoke flavor and making sure it's cooked through. Alright, let's take a look at this thing, see how she's doing. Ooh, that looks beautiful. Now that's what bacon's supposed to look like. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take her temperature, and if she's ready to pull, I'm going to pull her off and let her cool down. As you see, when you open up the kettle, instantly the wood starts catching on fire. So I'm going to be quick about this, take a temperature, and then again, if she's ready to pull, I'll pull her off. Alright guys. So I've gone ahead and pulled the brisket bacon off the smoker since it's at the temperature I want. The next step is to let this cool down to room temp, wrap it up in foil, and then put it in the bottom of the fridge to tighten up for a day or two. You could eat this right now as it is, and it would be tasty, but the texture really benefits from a rest in the fridge, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Trust me, your patience will be rewarded. Hey, I said this was an easy process. I never said it was quick. So the bacon is rested in the fridge for about 2 days now, which means I'm going to have to take a few slices off in the name of quality control. One great thing about brisket bacon is that it doesn't have as much fat that renders out as traditional bacon, so I can use my toaster oven to crisp it up since you don't have all that fat splattering everywhere. As you can see, I'm taking a few healthy slices here since I typically like my bacon on the thicker side. Kind of like milkshakes. They're always better when they're thicker. As you can see, these are some nice thick slices. That's the way I like it. Okay, so after 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, I have a plate of tasty, crispy, meaty morsels ready for me. Some of you may notice that I've decided to plate them up using the finest in Dixie china. And that's because I'm a stickler for presentation. Anyway guys, as I mentioned, this isn't a hard process. Although it does take some time, it's something that anyone can do. Hopefully you give it a try since I think you'll like how it turns out. Unless of course you're vegan. You'll probably hate it if you're vegan. Or who knows, you may like it and come to the dark side. Vegans, let bacon be your gateway drug. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like these random videos. I'll probably have a few more coming out over the next few months depending on whatever I get myself into. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and make myself a BLT. You guys have a good one.